What's good, y'all? Tristan here, and today I'm going to be doing my #1 most requested video of all time and sharing with you some similarities between America and Australia. Between all of the differences videos I've done, I've probably covered close to 200 differences between America and Australia, and if you include different language stuff, it's probably closer to 500, so we've covered all the differences, and the reason why I haven't done any similarities is because similarities are just boring. Oh, they both speak English, they both have McDonald's, they both have Starbucks, oh, they're both really big countries. No one cares. You don't really learn much about similarities, and I don't know, this is not as cool as differences. Especially because the US and Australia have so many similarities. Like, when thinking about what countries are the most similar to the US, I think #1, Canada, and then #2, I think, is Australia. I can't think of any country that's more similar to the US than Australia, besides Canada. And when you look at it from Australia's perspective, you might say, yeah, you know, they're more similar to New Zealand, England, Canada, but it's still really similar to the States. Now, I don't want to bore you with similarities, so that's why in this video, we are going to be covering 10 shockingly similar things between America and Australia. Jesus Christ, I'm looking at this video and I look like I have freaking raccoon eyes. There's a big old bright light right above me. Not the best lighting. Anyways, now what qualifies as shocking? Well, glad you asked, because there are two things that I looked for in this video. One was just something you might not think of, something unusual, you don't realize is similar, but I don't know, it is. And the second is that it is a similarity between the two countries that there's not really any other countries around the world that share this similarity. Besides Canada. We gotta just forget about Canada for this video. We're gonna pretend like it just doesn't exist. Anyways, #1, we got grocery stores. So I remember like the first week I was in Australia, someone asked me, what do you think of our grocery stores? Like, they're so big, they're so massive, like, what do you think of them? My thought was like, they're just like this in the States. This is nothing different to me. However, that is something that is done similar in each country that isn't really like that in pretty much any other country around the world. We have the most insanely large grocery stores. Grocery stores I've been to in Europe and Asia and South America are all much smaller. Even though they might have a couple really big ones in other countries, their really big ones in other countries are like small ones in America and Australia. Literally, this is the grocery store that I shopped at growing up, and this is a typical Australian grocery store. And around the rest of the world, like, as big as they get is like, I don't know, about this, like, about the size of a typical Aldi, I guess. #2, both of our countries have our own unique version of football. Lots of countries have a national sport, but our national sports are also like the #1 sport in that country. And what is also unique to both of our countries is traditional football, like soccer football, is not a super common sport in either country. I mean, it's common, but it doesn't make the top 3 in popularity in either country. #3 is that to some extent, both countries were founded by criminals. I do gotta say, I find it kind of funny that Australians, they kind of brag about this fact. They're like, oh, like, we're hard, we're founded by criminals. Like, I don't know, it's just something that a lot of Australians kind of brag about. However, the reality is, England used to send its criminals to America, and it wasn't until America got its independence that they had nowhere to send them, so then they sent them to Australia. So not to hurt your feelings, but you're not the only, and you're not the first country to be receiving England's criminals. #4 is our strict drinking laws. Now, the laws in each country are very different, but both of them are very strict in different ways. I know strict is a bit relative, like if you compare to like our rules to like the Middle East, no, they're not strict, but if you compare to like most of Europe, a lot of places in Asia, South America, there's a lot more rules and regulations on our alcohol. And it totally varies state to state in each country, but here are a couple of examples of how we have really strict laws. Obviously in America it's 21, almost everywhere bars close at 2 a.m. and on top of that, when you can buy alcohol from a store is very limited. Like in Texas where I'm from, you can't buy liquor after 9 p.m. any day, and you can't buy it at all on Sundays. Now in Australia it is also crazy strict, but it's like completely different crazy strict. It's like, alright, lockout laws, like you can't get into a bar after 1 a.m. No shots after midnight. I mean, this isn't everywhere, but in some places in Australia. Additionally, you pour the exact amount, you like measure every little drop of alcohol so precisely. Additionally, where you can buy alcohol, you can't buy alcohol anywhere in Australia besides for a bar or like a bottle shop. Like no gas stations, no convenience stores, no grocery stores, no bottle shops. Like, I mean, again, not every state, but in a lot of states this is how it is. Oh my god, and don't even get me started on how strict they are in getting into clubs. You go into a club, the bouncer will ask you, how many drinks have you had? There's no right answer to that. Like, you say anything less than 3, they don't believe you. And if you say anything more than 3, they can just be like, yeah, you're drunk, and they won't let you in. Anyways, next up, food. Yes, our countries are on opposite sides of the world, but we literally have like some of the most similar food. Yes, you can argue specific things like, oh, Texas has good barbecue, or Australia has like meat pies. But for the most part, like 95% of the food in one country, you can find it in the other country. The flavors are generally the same. Might be a little bit more Mexican in America and a little bit more Middle Eastern in Australia, but overall, food is quite similar. #6 is the variety of landscapes and climates and just like the whole like great outdoors. I think America has pretty much every single type of climate besides like a rainforest, and Australia, I don't know, pretty much has every single type of climate as well. I don't think there's another country in the world that has the climate variety that we do, and because of that, both of us have some pretty banger national parks. #7 is that compared to a lot of other countries around the world, both the US and Australia don't really smoke that much. Number 8 has to do a little bit with the people and the culture, and that is that both places, the people for both places are very loud and outgoing for the most part. People like to say Americans are really loud, but also they're friendly and outgoing, and I kind of have to agree with that for the most part, but I also think those same stereotypes are quite true for a lot of Australians. Can definitely be a little bit boisterous, they like to socialize. I feel like whenever I'm in an international environment in, I don't know, different areas, oftentimes the people who have the biggest like presence in the room, the most like noticeable, just like out there talking, I don't know how to really say it, but it's often Americans and Australians. Now number 9 is that we both love Hawaii. You're probably like, but Tristan, like doesn't everyone love Hawaii? Yes, they do. But when I think of Australia's, like the top 2 holiday destinations outside of the country for Australians, it's probably number 1, Indonesia, Bali, and then number 2, Hawaii. And when I think of the top tourist destinations for Americans, mainland Americans, not, sorry, Alaska and Hawaii, but I think of like Cancun, Mexico, and then probably next, Hawaii. It's right in between our 2 countries, like the mainland parts of each of our countries, and I would be surprised if there's any country that has more tourism in Hawaii rather than mainland America and Australia. Now number 10, and this one might be my favorite, but it's another one that's really hard to word, but we both have a very unique subculture of country folk in our countries. That sounds really weird, but what I'm trying to say is y'all got bogans, we got rednecks, and I don't know of any other country that has a subculture within it of country people that's so strong and identifiable as ours. Yes, obviously there are country boys and farmers in pretty much every country, but there's something about rednecks and bogans that give them a certain X factor. Whether it's the way they talk, their accent, or what they like what hobbies they have, or how they look, they're just very identifiable. In Australia, they got the outback. In the States, we got the Wild West in those country towns, and I don't know, it's just something. Like, yes, obviously there are farmers and countries in each country, but ours are just so prevalent and unique to our countries, I guess is how I'd say it. If you have any ones that you can think of, comment them down below, and I will be picking the most shocking, unique similarity between the 2 and pinning it to the top of this comment section. Don't forget to check out some of my other videos right over there. Thank you all so much for watching. Peace out, y'all.